the second annual Cannabis Expo here, taking place at Jacob Javits Center in New York City, a 3-day event dedicated to furthering the business of legalized cannabis in this country. Now, joining me are two former NFL players. We have Nate Jackson, who played for the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, and the Cleveland Browns, like he likes to say, just for one day, one week with the Cleveland Browns, and Charlie Adams, who played for the Denver Broncos and also the Houston Texans. So guys, first of all, why are former players here today?
Well, I think this gives us an opportunity to speak our own personal truth, and in the NFL, it's all about protecting the shield, shut up and play, follow orders. And we were kind of not forced to, but our only options to medicate were with pills. And a lot of us found solace and found relief in cannabis. And now that we're out of the league, we get the opportunity to talk about it. And I think it's just important to kind of add some perspective to it and give these guys the choice to be able to medicate with an herb, basically.
So Charlie, what sort of choices do players don't have in the NFL that you guys want to educate the players about now that you're out of the NFL?
In the NFL, it's pills, and it's pills, and that's it, and some therapy, really. There just needs to be other options. I'm not saying everybody needs to use medical cannabis or anything like that, but the players that want to use it should be able to use it. We live in a free country. This is something that has shown benefits medically, mentally, physically, and there's no reason that these guys shouldn't be able to do it, especially when the NFL sees people dying, people turning to alcohol, and so many other things that they allow and even promote. It just doesn't make sense to me, and it gets me kind of fired up and angry that I see close friends, I see friends of friends and family members that deal with this, and it's not necessary.
Sure. Let's talk about some of the injuries you guys have sustained throughout your NFL career. Nate, I know you went through a whole litany of injuries. What are some of the injuries you had as a player?
I'll start from my feet. Plantar fasciitis in both feet, Achilles tendonitis, broke my tibia in my left leg, tore my MCL in my knee, torn groins, popped off the bone, torn hamstring off the bone, had surgery to put my hamstring back on my butt bone, which was not very pleasant. Dislocated shoulders, separated shoulders, and then there's the constant repetitive head trauma that's endemic to the sport, right? You played football, you don't talk about your head hurting, you don't talk about seeing stars or getting your bell rung. There are no pain sensors in the brain, so we don't know when our brain is injured. And so aside from the medical cannabis helping all these orthopedic issues, it's a brain issue too, And I'm not a scientist, but the studies are showing that it can help the brain in advance of a brain injury and after a brain injury as well to heal. So there's a long list of things that it could help.
Yeah, Charlie, let's talk about some of the injuries you sustained during your playing career. What are some of your injuries that you had?
Tore both my ACLs, left knee, right knee, MCL, LCLs on both knees, broken wrists, and just, it's constant hip flexor and groin issues just from the running and repetitive motion, and several concussions. But that, like Nate said, that's not something that a player in my position is coming out of a game for. If I can remember what I'm doing, then you stay in the game. And, they're changing those kind of rules. But, those are the kind of things I dealt with. And I definitely see a positive in the use of cannabis, after my playing career too, because I wasn't a, big consumer during my playing days, but as I got towards the end of my career, I did notice, because of my friend here, I noticed some positive effects from it, and it helped me, and continuing now into retirement, as they say.
So did you guys use cannabis, smoke marijuana when you played?
I did, yeah. I started in high school socially. In college, I did. It was kind of mixed between social and pain management when I was playing football, starting to get injured a little bit there. But it wasn't until, for me, football was the most important thing in my life. It was never more important than smoking some weed for me. So I was very focused on off-season training camp. I was not consuming a lot. But after I had sustained a serious injury, 3 out of my 6 years in the league, I ended on injured reserve. So I broke my tibia in one of them, tore my groin in one of them, tore my hamstring in the other. Those require extensive rehab and in a lot of cases surgery. So it was dealing with those injuries in the rehab that I really started dabbling with the kind of recovery process of using that stuff. And it really worked. I healed ahead of schedule. My swelling was really minimal. My mind was sharp, One of the things about pills And it doesn't affect everyone the same way. But one of the things about pills is, for me, it makes me sluggish. It makes me down, lack of motivation. I don't believe in myself the same way. And to be excellent at something, in the NFL, you got to believe that you're the best. And for me, cannabis allowed me mentally to still conceive that I was the best and I still belonged on that field, and I was going to heal fast and I was going to be out there again. And the mental process was really important.
Sure. So let's back up a little bit, just sort of like giving people, just having them understand what happens when you sustain an injury in the NFL. When you get an injury in the NFL, what's the protocol? Let's say, for instance, Charlie, you said you've had several concussions. What's the protocol? You get a concussion on the field, or there's a suspicion that you might have a concussion. What happens?
Now it's different than when we played.
So when you guys played,
when I played there, you would talk to the doctor, and if you answered a few questions and you didn't look like this, you were going back in the game. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, or you wouldn't even talk to the doctor at all.
Or you keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
If you're not running off the field sideways, because sometimes you can tell when a guy's been concussed and he's running and he kind of looks like he's running on a side hill or something. If you're not doing that, then it really was up to you to gauge whether or not you could get back on the field. And I've done both. I've had to sit a couple plays out, and a couple plays I was a little dizzy and just stayed in there.
Now, what at that time when you guys played, I know even sort of the case now, when there was an injury and you spoke to a team doctor, whether it be your knees, shoulders, hamstrings, concussions, what have you, what would a doctor do?
Well, the doctor assesses the injury first. You tell them what hurts, and then right off the bat, they give you a bottle of pills, anti-inflammatory pills. Run rampant in the NFL. We talk about pain pills a lot, but the anti-inflammatories are a constant. Whatever you get hurt, you're being given a bottle of these pills. They are not, there are detrimental effects to those as well. The stomach lining, my stomach lining is gone from all those pills. I have acid reflux issues because I have no more stomach lining. It's always coming up. So you get the pills, and then you have to come in for treatment every single day, early, and you stay late to get treatment on that specific injury. So let's say it's your shoulder, ice, electric stimulation, and these pills, and range of motion, massage therapy, all that stuff. But they focus a lot of attention on that one injury. They blast it with attention to get you back healthy again. And a lot of times they're injecting needles into you as well. Toradol, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory, they give to people the day before a game to kill your pain on game day. But then there's spot injections, cortisone and whatnot. So it's a kind of a reckless approach to healing the human body. It's not about you and your individual care. It's about you getting on the field to help the team.
Exactly. And I think even in some cases, they want to make treatment and recovery a problem for you, so you don't do it. So they make it so you come in on your off days, you do all these things, and it seems like a punishment when you're hurt. I don't know that it's of course they want to get you healthy, but they do want to kind of keep you going, whether it's through the training room or just you shaking off an injury and getting back on the field. They just want you out there. And then your coach may come by when you're getting that assessment from the doctor. Coach may come by and say, hey man, you're all right, we need you out there, let's get back in there. And they may have something that the doctor is thinking in his head now, I got to get this guy back out there, because ultimately those doctors work for the team, and their interests lie with the team, not necessarily the player. That's why there needs to be some kind of independent person that's not paid by the league or paid by the team.
Sure. What sort of warning do you get from team doctors about the pills that you're getting, or even the injection that you might be getting? What do doctors say to you, like, hey, look, I'm going to give you these anti-inflammatories, but don't use them X, or don't use them Y, or don't use too many because? What sort of warning?
With the pills, it's here's the pills, take them all. You got to make sure you take them all. With the injections, it's a little different. Toradol, there would be a line of us waiting to get Toradol injections the night before the game. It was about 20 or...
Wait, when you say a line of you guys, explain.
A physical line of men waiting outside of a ballroom in a hotel to go in and get a needle put in our butt by a doctor who's holding the needle and saying, this has been known in some cases to cause internal bleeding, but is mostly safe. Do you still want it? And of course, I'm waiting in the line. I want to play tomorrow. My trainer suggested this to me as a way to get on the field. I know that if I don't play, someone else is going to instead of me in my position. If he plays better than I do, it's bye-bye. Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of motivation to ignore your own pain, ignore the sensors in your own body. And no, those needles are administered with very, very little warning.
Sure.
Yeah, and the pills, I'll say there's no kind of warning or kind of letting you know what the effects will be. I don't think there was any of that. I don't recall any of that. And it's after a game or road trip, doctors just walking up and down the aisles handing out the pill. I don't want it to sound like, dramatic, but that's what's happening. The doctor walks up the aisles, comes back the aisles. How are you feeling? What do you need? Ambien, Vioxx, Celebrex, all of them. And it's, you may or may not have been seen by a doctor on the sideline or after the game. You may or may not. You say, I'm hurting, and you get it. So there is no real regulation to it,
And one of the most dangerous things to mix is pain pills and sleeping medication.
Wow.
And then it seems...
Why?
Because it's just a deadly combination. People die in their sleep with that stuff, and that's what the NFL gives out. They give out pain pills, and they give out sleeping medication to their players. And we got Ambien when we played. That's how I was first introduced to it, and I know most NFL players, that's where they first saw it, from a licensed team doctor handing him pills. So it's pretty dangerous the way they treat kind of the whole big picture NFL body.
How many players would you guys say that that are addicted to opioids?
It's hard to tell because people keep their addictions to themselves, Similarly, it's hard to say what percentage of players smoke cannabis. It's also hard to say what guys are suffering from opioid addiction. There is an avenue to get your hands on those pills if you want them, if you show a taste for them, and you can find them. And if the doctors don't give you enough, there are doctors out on the streets who want to give NFL players what they need. And so there was guys when I played who would have doctors off-site. They'd get shipments of 500 pills, and they'd be passing them out on the plane, and whoever needed them. And some guys fall down into that trap.
Sure. So of course we're at the second annual Cannabis Expo here at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City to help promote or further the business of legalized cannabis sale here in this country. What is the message that you guys hope to spread, particularly to the NFL and to other players?
For me, is to get the word out there, and by the looks of this, you can tell there's a lot of support for it. But marijuana is not the boogeyman. It's not worse than anything that is legal that you buy in a store. Alcohol, cigarette. It's better than those things. It helps you. It's healthy. What I want to help promote is we need to have a real discussion about getting it legal. So then teams, the NFL, the NHL, Major League, then people will start to say, hey, it's not illegal, now we can look into this. As long as it's illegal and so stigmatized, nothing will move, in my opinion. You'll have anecdotal cases state by state where people can get help. These kids can get help, and these athletes or whoever, soldiers returning home, whoever it is needs to have that option. That's what I want for them, because people suffer unnecessarily for a lot of reasons that can be alleviated.
Well, in which form would you say this will be most helpful to players? Because there are some players who might just want to smoke marijuana to get high.
But they're already doing that. They're already doing
They're
it.
already
The guys
doing that, and they're already on the field in the NFL. So if you want to remove marijuana from these guys' lives, the product would look different. These guys are able to sustain repetitive head trauma while using cannabis as an herbal supplement. Let's study them and figure out if it's helping them play longer, if it's helping them stay healthier. I think the NFL will realize that this is actually a good thing for them. This could increase the longevity of the game. It could cut down on healthcare costs. Instead of taking all these pills, I could just take one herb. It could help insure players for life, former players. Really what a lot of these guys want is healthcare for life. NFL players don't get that. As it stands now, you get 5 years of post-career healthcare coverage, give or take, and then you're on your own. There is a fund that's created for a health reimbursement account for former players. You get 25 grand put in it for every year you play, but even that runs out, 5 to 10 years later. And so I believe that you could provide cannabis care for former players and really cut down the healthcare costs and the pills that they take. That's something that the NFL could look into. It's protecting the brains of football players. There's no industry in the world that has concussions more on their mind than the NFL. And if they believe that this could actually help alleviate concussions, help mitigate their liability in court, fewer players with brain injuries are fewer players suing them in court. These are all things that could benefit the NFL if they were just take their ego out of it. Right. It's not, they don't, I don't know, they are just kind of a little behind the times.
Slow to move. Yeah, slow to move on social things, in my opinion. They talk about player safety. If they really can, right? They move the kickoffs up. They say you can't target people. They do all these things, but when it's real medical issues that people want to promote, then they're a little slow to move on that. And I don't understand You know, it's a little hypocritical to say you're for player health and player safety, and then there is a drug that can help with that, and you are just totally closed off to it. You know, I don't see how you reconcile that. You know?
Why do you guys think more players who are active in the NFL are afraid to speak out?
Because of what happened to Eugene Monroe yesterday. He got released, he spoke out. And
so just to clarify, Eugene Monroe was an offensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens who've been speaking out, been an advocate for marijuana use in the NFL. Recently, he's just been released from the Baltimore Ravens yesterday, quite possibly. Let's see if he gets picked up by another team. So you're saying,
and they commented in the statement that his advocacy for medical marijuana played some role in him being released. You know, and he's been advocating this for these kids that have epilepsy and, you know, all the things we've been talking about. So, you know, and then you comment on that this is trying to help people, and then you release him. And then, you know, if that's why would you say that? Number one, why would you say that? And why do you want to send they want to send the message to other guys, shut up, fall in line, and don't do what Eugene did. And I just think that hurts the cause.
Sure. Nate, if you could explain to us, what's the current NFL policy for marijuana use? What happens?
Well, it is criminalized in the system, and so if you test positive for it, there's only one test per year for street drugs, what they call. And if you test positive for marijuana or anything, you get put in a substance abuse program where you get tested 2 to 3 times a week, 10 times or more per month for 2 or 3 years before you clear the system with clean tests all the way. And so you get put in this kind of punitive system, and it's not just if you test positive for marijuana. If you get a domestic dispute, if you get a DUI, if you test positive for Adderall or Ephedra or anything.
For alcohol, when you're in the program, you'll get suspended. You know, so when you see someone suspended, it may or may not be for marijuana. They may be in the program for marijuana or some other drug or just a performance enhancing drug, and then they roll out of bed, a guy knocking on the door at 7 in the morning. And they may have alcohol in their system, and you'll fail a drug test and be suspended and fined for that. Yeah. So once you're in that program, it is a all-encompassing drug test, weekly, couple times a week.
Sure. So you guys both played together at one point in time for the Denver Broncos. What percentage of
better.
You were better, if you think. Well, you know, to each its own. That's truly subjective. What percentage of players on that Denver Bronco team that you guys played on would you say smoked marijuana while they were active?
Well, it's hard to say. It's similar to the pill stuff. You know, a lot of people just kept it themselves.
Right.
The guys who smoked didn't always smoke together.
Right.
But you kind of had a feel for who the guys were. And
I think 50% is a very solid number. You know, a lot of guys, and some people won't use it simply because it's illegal. So some guys say, you know, once it's legal, I'll dabble in it. You know, some guys just don't want to break the law, and they're scared of breaking the law. So, you know.
So if you say about 50% of players, when you guys were on that team, smoked marijuana, how did you guys pass the test?
You just have to abstain a month before the test. And the test is in minicamp usually. And so, you know, when you get back and you start working out, you stop. And for me, it was never a problem. It was football, like I said, was the most important thing. That's what I cared about. And so it wasn't hard for me not to smoke. It was during the season. It was after I got hurt. It was when I was particularly broken down after a week or a practice that I would find solace in it. But it was not hard for me to abstain, you know. But like Charlie was saying, it's not the guys who get tested once a year who get popped. It's the guys who get put in that system that are now under this crazy authoritarian umbrella, and there's nothing you can do to escape them. Even not only if you test positive for alcohol, but let's say your phone was off and you don't get the call for 4 hours, that's a failed test as well. And so it goes in the media as he failed his drug test. Well, you don't know the specifics of it. And so it's this police state that the NFL kind of keeps focus on these guys, punish, you know, and then make them repent. And I just think that's, it kills the individual, and it kills the ability to kind of treat yourself and speak out for yourself.
Sure. So with the last few minutes that we have, I kind of want to refocus ourselves to what your mission is. So we are here at the second annual Cannabis Convention at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, and you guys are here. You were speaking on a panel later on this afternoon. Again, what is the focus? What is the message that you guys want to get out to not only other players but the media and fans even of the NFL?
Like I said, I'm here to help these children. I'm here to help current players, former players, in all sports. You know, I try to help raise money, be an advocate when I can because I believe in it. I know it works. There's science that says it works, and you know, just the number of people that it could help, and we're unnecessarily leaving them behind. People don't like taking pills. Not everybody likes taking pills. So they need another option. You know, I do medical device sales now. I talk to my doctors about this, and my doctor made a good point. He says, who do you know on opioids or on any kind of pain management that's doing well? Who do you look at and say, hey, this guy's on Vicodin twice a day, he's doing really well? No one's doing well. You know, people on cannabis are doing well, and they're making progress mentally and physically. That's kind of the message I want to get out.
Yeah, I think this is, for me, it's just to empower people to be themselves, to trust their epiphanies. You know, football players were always taught, your mind does not matter. Your ideas, your thoughts, we don't care what you think about this. We need your body, and we need you to do this thing on the field. And for football players, we are human beings. You know, football players are people too. And all walks of life can benefit from this. And football players, or the NFL, has a unique opportunity to spearhead the research on some really interesting stuff and some really important issues, not just pain pills and opioids, but brain trauma and concussions. You know, veterans, 22 veterans commit suicide every single day in this country. 41 Americans die from pain pill overdoses every day in this country. Those are lives that could be saved from using marijuana as a medicine. It's worked for me. I trust my epiphanies now, and I encourage all football players to trust their own beliefs and be able to voice them.
Sure. Nate, what sort of injuries, or not even injuries, what sort of pain do you still feel to this day? You've been retired now for how many years?
6 years.
You've been retired for 6 years. Charlie, you've been retired for how long now?
8 years.
About 8 years. 7 to 8 years. What sort of post-football pain do you still deal with to this day?
Well, there's a variety of stuff. I just had surgery on my ankle in August last year to clean out a bunch of bone spurs. I have torn labrums in each hip. I have problems that are going to be there forever. Lower back trauma, some neck stuff, shoulder crap. That's just endemic to all football players. Everybody deals with it, and you got to find a way to manage that in real life. And the difference about, playing and not playing is when you're playing, you have 8 hours of attention on your body every day by medical professionals who are there to make sure you're all right. So anything that you have going on, they're going to get it right. But out in the real world, there's no one there for you. There's no one bringing you in, telling you, come here at 8 and we're going to work on for 3 hours on your elbow or whatever. You're on your own for that. And you got to find something that works for you. And in my opinion, marijuana is a really good supplement for that process because it gets you back in touch with your body. You stay off of those pills, and you're able to kind of get in touch with your pain, because pain's really important, and you got to realign the body.
Sure. Charlie, what message would you have for your younger self, who, as a player, was given opioids, given pills, given Ambien? What message would you have for your younger self with the information that you now have?
I would definitely have my eyes open. I would say, the pills have their place in the NFL and in recovery and in pain management. They have their place, and I've used them, and they've benefited me in certain ways. But I would tell my younger self, research what you're putting in your body. The doctor says take this pill. Okay, well, I will take that pill if I look at it and I say, hey, these side effects are okay with me, and then I'll take that pill. It was like a Pez machine, right? He gives me pills, I take the pills. I don't know what I'm taking. Yeah, we're grown men, we should know that, but we're trusting to these guys because they care about us. They should care about us. So we didn't ask the right questions back then. You have to ask the right questions and know what you're doing and know why you're doing it,
And what would you like the NFL to do? What would you guys like to see the NFL do in regards to marijuana, cannabis in the NFL?
Stop punishing people for testing positive for it and get behind some research. Partner with some of these companies here.
Right.
Talk to some actual leading scientists instead of trying to place your own doctors and scientists in these pointed studies that you want a certain outcome to come from. Open up your mind to it. Let your ego go and extend the olive branch to players and try to provide a more kind of sensible, cogent healthcare system for them.
Charlie, how fair do you think the NFL has been in their reaction to marijuana?
I mean, it's a white and black issue with the NFL. It's just not legal by their standpoint. So this year they did come out. I don't know the exact language they use. Maybe you do, but they are open to hearing about studies. I think that was the language they used, but they're open to it now, which I think is like a giant leap forward, because the NFL is very slow to move on things like that.
Sure.
I just think they need to be proactive put some money towards it so they can study their players. They should want this information. They should want to have this information out there so they can help their players and their league.
Sure. So again, we're at the second annual cannabis convention here at the Jacob Javits Center. Charlie Adams, Nate Jackson. Nate is also a best-selling author with your second book just about to come out.
Yep, second book's coming out in September. It's called Fantasy Man. Buy it.
Thank you, guys. So be sure to kind of tune in and kind of follow this cause and kind of see what Nate and Charlie, what they're up to as they continue to advocate for the NFL to change their policy as it pertains to marijuana.